Ladies and gentlemen, one of the largest tech channels on YouTube, LinusTechTips, is currently under fire for purchasing a private jet. This creator has reached the point of wealth where they are just now completely out of touch with reality, and they ended up making a 25-minute video called "The Gamer Jet is Real and it cost $0" with an asterisk, where they pretty much talk about this private jet and how it's would normally be $5 million or so, but under an NDA they can't disclose how much they paid for it. And then they try to, say like, oh well, it has all these upgrades, it has all these features, and it has this and all these great things going on, so it's basically free.
When you say it's not that much, how much is that?
So because of the non-disclosure agreement that we signed in order to purchase it,
okay,
like, this whole world is very closed door.
Yeah.
I can't actually tell you how much I paid. But what I can tell you is that if you Google it, it's less than that. And the second thing that I can tell you is that with a little bit of girl math, $0. So when I'm done with it, with the condition that it's in, I should be able to get back what I paid and maybe even the bulk of what I spent operating it.
Right, and again, completely out of touch with reality again. This guy is very wealthy. I don't think anybody's like mad at LinusTechTips that, he grinded on YouTube for almost 20 years and he's finally able to, buy a jet. The thing is, do you need a jet? Probably not. And the fact that you made an entire video trying to prove to the world why you needed a jet is, again, just completely out of touch with actual reality. And the massive irony of this whole situation is literally back in 2023, Linus went onto a show to basically call out private jets, right? Call out the private flight industry and how he thinks it's completely unnecessary.
I don't want to be judgy, but I'm personally kind of opposed to the private air travel industry. I don't think it sends a good message. I don't think it's particularly helpful. There's a lot of things about it that make me kind of uncomfortable, and I don't know. It's not something that I'm particularly comfortable with, and
I've sprung for some.
I don't like it.
3 years later, we're literally only into April, and here he is. He now has his own private jet. So like, what changed? And the entire comment section of this video is just basically trolling because it's a complete joke. I love videos like this, showcasing budget products we can actually afford. Obviously a joke. Nobody can afford a $5 million jet, except LinusTechTips, I guess. Linus has officially entered the "what does a banana cost? $10 phase of wealth." Ah yes, the Mr. Beastification of LinusTechTips. And I think all these comments are fair. Again, this whole video is just completely out of touch. And for that reason, people are going to make fun of it. Now, Linus starts off this video by basically talking about how, as an April Fool's joke, they were looking into buying a plane. As you can see, there's like this, two-seater, single-engine, low-wing aircraft. One of these little planes right here. You can probably go outside, maybe if you live in the countryside or something. You might see little planes like this driving around. These are kind of like private use planes, right? Hobbyist planes. People who want to learn how to fly, or maybe they just like flying. Someone who's retired and they got experience learning how to fly, they might buy one of these, right? Pretty affordable. You can probably get one of these for, $15,000, maybe up to $100,000. But no, this is not the plane that LinusTechTips decided to get, because he decided to purchase again, upwards of $5 million jet, which he can use as a tax write-off, which some people are even thinking could be some type of like tax fraud, because again, this is a private item. Like, you didn't need a jet. Like, you don't need a private jet for business use, right? You can easily get onto a plane, go to where you need to be, right? If you got to fly to an event, fly to like NVIDIA to like check out a new graphics card, you can hop on a plane like the rest of the common folks, and you can use that plane ticket as a tax write-off. But you do not need a $5 million jet to use as a business expense. And I think a lot of normal people can probably agree with that. Now, the private jet that Linus ended up purchasing is a Dassault Falcon 900B. If you Google it, you can easily see these are usually priced $5.9 million to $8 million. There's a site down here called Controller Aircraft where you can actually see listings for this specific jet. People are selling it for, again, $5 million. Call for price, right? $6 million. And these are old. These are 1989, 1991, 92. These are some old ass private jets, right? I mean, if it's one of those things where it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But obviously the call for price, you know, that means they're serious business. This is serious aircraft we're dealing with here, where they're not just going to sell it to anybody, obviously, which is why the purchase of this plane was under a NDA, where I guess Linus can't talk about it, which to me just doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, maybe, I don't know a lot about planes, right? Contracts and whatnot. I have a family member who purchased a luxury vehicle, and the person that they like bought it from was like apparently a celebrity or something. And that information can't be shared with us because of like buyer protection and privacy and whatnot. They didn't have to sign an NDA or anything to purchase this vehicle. That was like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But, you know, maybe once you're reaching the $5 million, you know, dollar mark of like a private jet is where you start busting out the paperwork, the NDA, non-disclosure agreements. Or maybe it has something to do with the jet once being owned by the United Arab Emirates, which is basically why the plane has all these gold-plated sinks and mirrors and freaking faucets. Yeah, everybody needs a jet. Everybody needs gold-plated, all this crap for a tech YouTube channel. Now, the entire premise of this video is kind of clickbait because he claims that this gaming jet is real and it costs $0. Here's where the asterisk point comes in. He claims that because the jet is under a service for the next 12 years, and if he were to sell the jet in the future, he'd basically get his money back. Somehow that makes it $0. That's not how that works. If I buy a house and the house goes up in value, that doesn't mean that the house was free. That means that I'm out of the money that I spent on that house, and there's a chance I can, you know, sell it for a higher value. Let's say that jet explodes tomorrow, right? You're not making a penny off of that. You're still out of $5 million. There is no element of this jet being free. And another cope that he tries to get into is where he talks about how, you know, the price of, you know, buying gasoline or buying whatever it takes to fly this plane, you know, get to point A to point B is cheaper than it would cost for him to, you know, get his entire family first class tickets to, you know, destination B.
Actually cost less than buying like a first class ticket for everyone, which was kind of mind blowing to me.
I mean, first class, like,
Sure.
like let's bring it down to earth here.
Yes, or not, but
Okay.
but it wasn't much more than even business class for everyone.
Got it.
Which blew my mind.
Normal people do not use first class tickets. You know, if I gotta go to freaking Florida or, you know, North Carolina or just some other state in the world to travel and do something, I'm probably just gonna buy a normal seat, right? If I'm famous, might put a hoodie on, some glasses, whatever the case may be. But the fact that you have to compare it to first class, which is again another out of touch purchase, another thing that a lot of normal people cannot relate to. According to USA Today, they have a website called 10 Best where it just covers a bunch of random topics and whatnot. It's basically explaining the price of first class tickets. For as little as $300, you can fly from New York to Washington, DC. Now, I went from Virginia, which is close to DC, to New York one time, and it was like $100. Literally, it was $100 for like a normal ticket, and it was like a 3-hour flight, right? So basically, triple that price. You get some wine, you get a nicer, bigger seat, and whatnot. And that's only if you're going like a 3-hour distance, right? So if you are going, you know, further, right? If you're going somewhere like Hawaii, or let's say you're going even further than that, you can start reaching upwards of like $2,800, $1,900 again for one flight, which is absolutely not necessary, not a necessity. And if you have a family, again, I feel like no matter how big you are and famous and wealthy you are, sure, you can splurge a little bit, but you shouldn't come online on YouTube and trying to pretend like this is just common. Like, yeah, guys, I'm saving money here. I could be buying first class tickets sitting right next to Taylor Swift, but instead I'm going on my private jet where I'm spending $15,000 to fill up my tank. It's just completely affordable, guys. What are you talking about? Like, no, you are out of touch, Linus. Now, the rest of the video is him just kind of showing the parts of the plane, which I guess is like cool if you care about planes. Like, again, this is Linus Tech Tips. It's not like Linus Flight Tips. It's not Linus's plane, tour channel. It's just, again, very out of touch and very strange. Not sure who this content is for, which kind of leads me down the route of like, this definitely does seem like some weird elaborate version of tax fraud. I'm not pulling those allegations. I'm just saying people are saying it kind of makes sense. Like, you bought a private jet for private use or personal use, right? It's clearly just something you wanted, right? It's like if I buy a PS5 Pro, but I also buy a game and then I use that game for gameplay. So then I add the PS5 Pro in the game to like my taxes as a write-off. It's kind of a scam because I didn't need that for business. I don't need the PS5 Pro. It was something I wanted, and I'm just able to do something work related on it so that I can add it to my write-offs, which is one thing if it's $1,000 for the Pro in the game compared to a $5 million jet. That's where we get into the fraud territory. I'm not saying that. I'm not pushing those allegations. I'm just saying if someone were to say this is possibly fraud or it looks like it, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I'd say, okay, I see that. That's weird for sure. I do think Linus Tech Tips has had like the bad end of the stick sometimes when it comes to internet drama. And, people do snark him to an extent. But this is probably one of the most like out of touch, almost Mr. Beastified videos where it's just like such an insane thing that like not any human, I don't think a single person that probably has watched this video can probably relate. I mean, it's got 1 million views, whatever. It's probably someone out there who's like, oh, I have this jet too. That's a good jet. Linus, good work. But like normal people who watch this guy to see if like the next new iPad or the next iPhone is worth purchasing will have no understanding or interest in his private jet or like what he's going to do with it or like why he's trying to defend why he bought it. This video is just for nobody. It did not need to really exist on YouTube. I think that he's just putting it on YouTube because, again, that's where the tax purpose is going to come in. He can say, see, here's the video I made talking about it and how I'm going to use it for work. And he also talks about how, like, he's going to take his family down. He has a vlog channel with his family where he's going to be using the jet. So it's like, just because you happen to also film content with the jet, again, I'm not seeing the correlation of how this is a necessary business expense other than the fact that you want it as a tax write-off to try to trick the system. But I do want to know what you guys think down below. I appreciate you watching as always. Peace out.